to Sunday Night Magic here from GP Seattle. I am Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Reed Duke, and we are ready to get things rolling in the quarterfinals. Here we have Jerry Thompson facing off against Slater Claudel. Jerry is not playing mono red. He is playing red black. On the other side of the table, his opponent is playing Sultai Constrictor. Now, Jerry represents one of the two black-red decks in the top 8 here. Slater, the only Sultai Constrictor deck. Reed, do you have any thoughts on the matchup from a big-picture perspective?
It's very close. I would rather be on Jerry Thompson's side, although that statement is complicated by the fact that Slater Claudel is the higher seed and therefore gets the very crucial play, the first land drop in Game 1 here. However, the black-red aggro deck is very well positioned to take advantage of playing against Sultai Constrictor because, in general, cards like Chandra Torch of Defiance and Glorybringer are quite well positioned against a green creature deck that doesn't have haste, that often has to tap out for one creature that's very vulnerable to those 4 damage effects. Plus, the one thing that would break that mold is something like Verdurous Gearhulk or Winding Constrictor, allowing creatures to get up to 5 toughness. And the specific black cards in Jerry Thompson's deck include Unlicensed Disintegration, which allows him to cover all his bases, have great answers to the Sultai Constrictor's creature base, and allow him to just keep attacking, forcing through damage throughout the game.
Jerry's going to use a Braid to take down Rishkar, Pima Renegade, and clear the way for 5 damage as well. He's going to follow up, being mana efficient here, using that last land to cast another Inventor's Apprentice, and that was a pretty quick start from Jerry, all told.
Yeah, so there you saw a pretty important judgment call from Jerry, electing to abrade the Rishkar Pima Renegade rather than the Glint Sleeve Siphoner. You're pretty scared to let an opponent untap with Glint Sleeve Siphoner and 2 energy, as that card advantage, you can't undo that once the opponent's drawn a couple extra cards. However, Jerry prioritizing attacking his opponent's life total there, killing the Rishkar means he gets to attack with Inventor's Apprentice. Letting the Glint Sleeve Siphoner survive means that Slater is going to pay 1 additional life on his upkeep. And crucially, cutting the mana, not allowing something like a Verdurous Gearhulk to come down ahead of schedule.
That's right. Also, the Glint Sleeve Siphoner, even with the +1/+1 counter, is at best a trade with all of Jerry Thompson's creatures, where the Rishkar was a little bit bigger.
And we may indeed see the Glint Sleeve Siphoner trade off against one of those 1-drop creatures.
And once again, here is Walking Ballista. No Winding Constrictor in sight, though, so not that explosive start that the Sultai Constrictor deck can have, but still a good one.
Yeah, this is just what he wants. He wants to be able to use his mana every turn, deploy a lot of creatures that are getting in the way, and just making sure that Jerry can't execute his game plan, at least not easily. He's going to encounter some resistance on his path to attacking for 20 damage.
Take a look at Jerry T as he surveys the scene, though really the ball is in Slater's court at the moment. He has a clean attack with the Glint Sleeve Siphoner. He has Menace, only 1 blocker back for Jerry, means he has no choice but to take the damage. And in they come. Slater Claudel tapped out at the moment, so Jerry knows that this board state will be maintained through combat.
Slater took the rather aggressive line of attacking with Glint Sleeve Siphoner, not going to trade it off. I don't know. It's pretty ambitious. This board state is super tenuous, and even a single removal spell from Jerry is going to be backbreaking in this combat step.
Jeez, he's just going for it. Is Slater. He really figures that he can win the long game here.
Or it might be, to frame it the opposite way, he might not be comfortable with just the resources he has access to in his hand, and he might think, I need to get a little lucky, I need to see an extra card off Glint Sleeve Siphoner before I can make something happen that's going to allow me to win the game.
Looks like Jerry's not going to use a removal spell, perhaps doesn't have one, or just decided it's not worth it, and he's just going to trade off. perhaps just valuing this Ether Sphere Harvester hitting the battlefield higher. He's going to play it post-combat and ship the turn back to Slater. Slater, though, is at a rather precarious 7 life, and he's going to fall down to 6 with the Glint Sleeve Siphoner trigger as well. And that's 2 turns in the air with that Ether Sphere Harvester. And this could get pretty sketchy here for Slater.
It's a very close game. That was an acceptable but not very punishing turn from Jerry, giving Slater Claudel a little bit of breathing room. I think when he decided to attack with the Glint Sleeve Siphoner, he was preparing himself mentally for something very bad to happen to him, and Jerry just making a pretty straightforward attack and adding 1 more permanent to the battlefield, no land drop. That's about the best Slater could have hoped for.
How is he going to interact with Ether Sphere Harvester? Typically, you see people either have answers for it directly or kill all the creatures that can crew it, but that is precarious at best. With such a low crew cost, any creature in Jerry's deck can crew it.
Slater really just doesn't have anything good in his hand. He has 2 lands and 2 copies of Hadana's Climb, which are not that effective, at least not in the immediate term on this board.
Yeah, if he can get it transformed, it can give him a potentially flying blocker down the line, but that is a slow process that Jerry certainly will have ways to interact with. So Hadana's Climb is going to trigger at the beginning of combat, going to put it on Walking Ballista, nice little combo in and of itself. But Slater's only going to attack with Glint Sleeve Siphoner. Has to note it, though, puts him back up to 2 energy again, which could be another card next turn, but tick-tock, Jerry Thompson is playing black-red aggro and has ways to finish you off.
Jerry picked up a 4th land for this draw step, which is going to give him greater flexibility in how to navigate this turn.
Is it a Sun-Scorched Desert as well?
I think it might be an If Near Deadlands.
Ah, okay. If Near Deadlands, fine enough here for Jerry. What does Jerry's attack situation look like?
And we should note, even though Jerry is very much the aggressor in this game, his own life total is not trivial. We've seen the Sultai Constrictor deck do pretty powerful, explosive things out of nowhere, particularly with a Hadana's Climb already on the battlefield, Walking Ballista representing an easy way to transform that and, in a way, double damage if you get to attack with a giant Ballista and then dump the counters against the opponent's life total afterwards. That's a lot of damage out of nowhere.
There's the If Near Deadlands from Thompson. And he's got Pia Nalar and Friend. He's going to use Friend to crew up that Ether Sphere Harvester and
so this
line
will
up an attack.
Force the action. It is a lethal attack, which means that Slater's going to have to commit the Walking Ballista to combat, which is very good news for Jerry.
Yeah, he's not going to get to untap with it. Jerry's going to go ahead and attack. He's got something else. Yes, he's actually going to get extremely aggressive and throw that Thopter at the Walking Ballista.
So Jerry here playing on the very specific read that Slater Claudel does not have Fatal Push. It would be a pretty disastrous play if Slater did have Fatal Push, but this is the way Jerry likes to play Magic. He has confidence. He has a specific read, and he's gonna go for it.
And he does. He forces Slater Claudel to use Walking Ballista to kill the Scrounger, else he would just be dead on board. As it stands, he falls down to just 1 life. Of course, that means the Glint Sleeve Siphoner is going to have to not be activated this turn as well. So this one has fully slipped away from Slater Claudel. I don't see any way back for him at this point. An If Near Deadlands for him, but multiple lethal threats. He's going to get in. Can he do something to survive this next turn? No flyer right now.
Yeah, there's not really any big 6-mana instance that Slater Claudel can produce here. The best would be a Vraska's Contempt.
which would actually save him for a turn.
If it does get pointed at Ethersphere Harvester, Jerry can sacrifice it via Pia Nalar's ability.
And maintain lethal.
Maintain lethal by fizzling the 2 points.
That's exactly what's happening. Let's see if Jerry goes for it. Oh, he grabbed it, but he has not actually put it in the graveyard. No, he is going to allow that to happen. Well, Slater just bought himself a turn, but there's Chandra, and that makes that turn irrelevant because Slater Claudel's going to take 2 damage from Chandra. Jerry T had the win in his hand, and he knew it, and he picks up game number 1 of our first quarterfinal match. Happening on other tables, Gagnon is playing against Andrew Shane. Gagnon undefeated in the Swiss portion. We'll be checking up with him if he's able to get by Andrew. That's Mono Red versus Mardu Vehicles. Matthew Dimaggio is playing Jeremy Frey. That's red-black, similar to what Jerry's playing here against Blue-Red Gift. And then Charles Wong, he's playing Blue-Red Gift Mirror against Grayson Roberts as our last quarterfinal match.
And that would be the opponent waiting for these players in the semifinals is going to be the winner of a Blue-Red Godpharaoh's Gift Mirror match.
Yeah, that's a great point, Reed. No matter what, whoever wins this match is going to be playing Blue-Red Gift. We've got the deck list here for Sultai Constrictor. Again, this is the only copy of this Constrictor list that made it into the top 8. This is a relatively popular deck in Standard. You do see it around if you play some Standard, and you can see why.
The most unique thing about Slater Claudel's list in particular is he's made the choice to prioritize Rishkar, Pima, Renegade, whereas many other players choose Jade Light Ranger for that slot. Aaron Barrich, who put this deck on the map a few weeks ago at Grand Prix Memphis, he played 3 Jade Light Ranger. Maybe he just played 4 Jade Light Ranger now that it comes back to me, but sometimes you see 3 and 1, 3 Jade Lights, 1 Rishkar. Slater Claudel going all the way up to 3 Rishkars.
Rishkar is part of the equation for some of the more explosive starts the deck can have. Turn
Definitely.
2, Wani Constrictor. Turn 3, Rishkar is nasty.
Definitely. And, you know, if he does make it past Jerry Thompson, that could come up against Blue-Red Godpharaoh's Gift, which plays an extremely small amount of creature removal. Just being able to maximize your chance at that super punishing 2-drop, 3-drop start is a big deal.
Some good storylines happening in our other tables. I mentioned Gagnon. He is 15-0. He played his last round and won. And with that mono-red deck is trying to defeat Andrew Shane. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Nobody's ever gone wall-to-wall, end-to-end, 18-0 to win a GP, but we could see that happen here from Jan. Also, down on the bottom table, I mentioned Charles Wong. He's a local player. We had a local player, Daniel Duterte, take down the Legacy GP, and Charles Wong is carrying the flag for us here in Seattle as well, trying to keep the trophies off of the airplanes and into the houses around the area here. We'll see if that can happen. Take a look at the sideboard here from Jerry Thompson. Reed, anything standing out to you as particular silver bullets in this matchup?
I actually think Jerry's going to improve relative to Grayson after sideboard because, everything after those 2 Argel's Bloodfasts could very well come in here, just transforming effectively into a black-red control deck because Slater Claudel's deck, it's all about single potent threats, resilient threats sometimes, but there's not that much card advantage and there's not that much to break the pattern of playing 1 creature per turn at sorcery speed. And a card like Doomfall is just fantastic at taking advantage of that. It can even kill Bristling Hydra. It can kill a creature through a Blossoming defense. So I don't know exactly what approach Jerry's going to take to this matchup, but he could bring in a lot more removal spells and just say, I'm going to outdo my opponent. I'm going to stick a Chandra, use that for a little bit of card advantage, and kill everything he plays. We did see in that final win-and-in match of Mono Red against Sultai Constrictor, Sultai Constrictor really failed in the second game due to being unable to stick a creature. It had cards like Hadana's Climb and Cartouche of Ambition, but never got the traction, never got to untap safely with a creature to deploy those effectively pump spells.
By the way, I was mentioning Gagnon versus Andrew Shane. We do have game 1 update from that. Andrew Shane up a game over Gagnon, looking to break up the historic run. And I was also talking about hometown hero Charles Wong playing against Grayson Roberts, who, as we heard, is a Minnesota area player, a Minneapolis player. And he's up a game over Charles Wong as well. Chat points out dutifully that Jerry Thompson also from Seattle these days, so that trophy would stay home if Jerry took it home as well.
Might get auctioned off to charity, but it would remain in Seattle for at least some snapshot of time.
Like through the week, maybe? All right, so a quick start here for both players. And there's my boy thrashing Brontodon. Welcome back to the battlefield, my friend.
That's a nice one here, Marshall, because as you see, Jerry with 2 mana and a lot of removal spells available that deal 3 damage, but he's going to need actual unlicensed disintegration to take care of that thrashing Brontodon.
The Whining Constrictor did get taken care of by a Braid. That happens all the time. In fact, if you play Sultai Constrictor, you just kind of assume that your turn 2 Constrictor is going to die. But it just poses such a potent threat that the times when it doesn't, it's absolutely worth it.
Agreed. I think in a open field, you're super happy to have a card like that where you can score easy wins. You can have something that you're really excited to see in your opening hand. But in this matchup, post-board against red-black aggro, where Jerry T, in addition to those abrades, is bringing in Fatal Push and Doomfall, I think we're not going to see too many of those runaway Whining Constrictor games.
Jerry Thompson applying pressure now with Pia Nalar offering a trade on the ground and chipping in for 1 damage in the air. Trade not accepted here from Slater, so 17 apiece for our players and a big turn here from Jerry. He's got 4 mana available. What can he do?
In my opinion, Chandra Torch of Defiance is probably Jerry's best card in this matchup because of its ability to kill most of the creatures in the Sultai Constrictor deck and Jerry's fairly realistic ability to protect it and untap with it. Sultai Constrictor doesn't really have any haste creatures, and short of Walking Ballista, no way to deal direct damage. So I'm really going to look for the games where Jerry's able to draw and cast Chandra as the ones that he's going to be able to win most easily. He didn't have it there. There is unlicensed disintegration on Thrashing Brontodon, but it's a little bit bittersweet because... Oh, wow.
Oh, how about Blossoming Defense, Reed?
I was going to say sacrificing the Brontodon to destroy Thopter Token would be good enough, but Blossoming Defense even better. And I love that Slater Claudel has left that card in his deck and planned around it a bit, as it's just a fantastic answer to unlicensed disintegration. Used to see that a bit in Old Standard when Mardu Vehicles was the top dog of the format. But hello.
It's time for the glory to get brought in, and onto the table it goes. And that poor Thrashing Brontodon has been targeted by a lot of stuff. It looks like it's finally time for it to hit the bin.
Wow, so it may have actually worked out better for Slater if he had sacrificed it to the Thopter. I certainly don't blame him for making the decision he did, but this is unfortunate that it's going to be killed in a nice, clean way, and Jerry's going to preserve his Thopter token.
It does look, by the way, like Jerry has transitioned into the bigger version of his deck. Look at the cards we've seen. He's got Pia Nalar, Glorybringer, and 2 removal spells. Looks like a fine combination for Jerry Thompson. In the meantime, Slater's stuck kind of playing fair magic here. He's just got a Walking Ballista that he's paying full price to put a counter onto, and attacking with that and a Servant of the Conduit. That said, Jerry's at a pretty low life, 7 here with 3 counters on the Ballista.
Wow, that really snuck up on me. It hadn't been on my radar that Jerry's life total was dropping so quickly, but the Thrashing Brontodon got in a few hits, and you're right, that Walking Ballista representing a real threat.
Tick-tock. So now Jerry kind of has his hands full. You feel like he has the tools to work with here in the middle part of the game, but pressure is definitely on. Though that said, Slater Claudel also down to 10 himself.
One of the storylines for me in the development of this standard the standard format is the power level of Chandra, Torch of Defiance, Rekindling Phoenix, and Glorybringer. These are some of my favorite cards in the format, but I'm not alone in that. These are cards that have won a lot of players a lot of games. However, the best way to use them is not necessarily clear or static, and it's been evolving over the course of the format. We saw red-green monsters take down Grand Prix Memphis. We've seen red-black and Mardu vehicles be very realistic alternatives to mono-red. And, of course, Ganyan 15-0 currently with good old-fashioned mono-red. So finding the best ways to make the best use of these cards is a key to doing well in this format.
Yeah, here Jerry Thompson is putting together a 1-2 punch of Abrade your Servant of the Conduit and now play Doomfall to force you to sacrifice your Walking Ballista. Now Slater clearly is going to use these counters in response. And it looks like it was 2 upstairs and 1 to the token. And there's Fatal Push to finish off Pia Nalar, putting Jerry down to 5 life. But Slater really needs to find some pressure if he's going to finish Jerry off, because that Glorybringer is set to untap, and all he has is Servant of the Conduit. This is great news for Jerry Thompson. 1 card left in hand for Slater.
A sacrificial lamb here. Slater going, please just exert the Glorybringer. Kill my creature, don't kill me.
Go. Jerry Thompson gets to untap. Cycles a Canyon Slough. What does he find? Thompson up a game in the quarterfinals. His home GP. He lives here in Seattle. Thompson quite easily the most accomplished player in our top 8 here. He is a Pro Tour champion. Has to be the favorite to take down this GP. And he says, I'm going to play it a little safe here. Glorybringer, I am going to kill your Servant of the Conduit with Exert.
And you got to believe that Jerry knows Slater Claudel does not have Vraska's Contempt in hand, but believes that he's so far ahead here that he's going to play around the possibility of a top deck.
Is that an Argwell's Bloodfast here for Thompson? Well, there's Rishkar Pima Renegade. It's going to be a 3-3.
Boy, talk about a transform sideboard. Jerry Thompson is hardly an aggro deck at all. He's just all removal and a couple of well-placed card advantage tools.
He is going to activate Argwell's Bloodfast. That actually leaves him with transforming the Bloodfast here.
Potentially scary to be dead to a 6-mana Walking Ballista, but that's not a concern due to Argwell's Bloodfast transforming into Temple of, you want to do this for me?
Aklazats.
Very good.
It looks like he's going to go down to 1 here, though, and get another card.
This is with the transform trigger on the stack.
Exactly. And there it goes. So Jerry playing with fire. He's at 1.
Yeah, hypothetically, if Jerry's drawn all lands and Slater Claudel draws an effective card, he could win the game.
Does Slater even need an effective card here?
Well, Jerry can sacrifice Glorybringer to get up to 5.
Can't be where he wants. Can't be where he wants to be. But there you go, Rekindling Phoenix, and it's going to be back to Slater. How big of a Walking Ballista can Slater make if he were to top deck it right here?
He can make a 3/3 Walking Ballista.
So that's simply not enough. And he simply passes the turn back to Jerry Thompson, who's going to have 2 lethal threats, and it looks like he's on the verge of making the semifinals here in Seattle. Sent in his 2 bomb flyers. I think we're going to see a handshake here. That's going to do it. Jerry Thompson is through to the semifinals. Congratulations, Jerry. You're moving your way through. Slater Claudel, we'll see you at the Pro Tour, my friend. A fantastic finish for you this weekend, but a little bit unfortunate getting paired up against, well, the best player in the top 8, Jerry Thompson. And Jerry makes short work of Slater 2-0. And Jerry is through. Now, you mentioned it a minute ago, Reed, but Jerry is actually going to be now waiting to find out the winner of Charles Wong versus Grayson Roberts. But one thing that Jerry does know is he's going to be playing Blue-Red Gifts.
That's right. So he'll probably catch his breath, maybe conference with some friends or teammates about sideboarding for that matchup, and he'll come back well prepared with a plan for how he's going to make the finals of this Grand Prix. Slater, Claudel, in one sense, was the odd man out in this top 8. If you just wanted to simplify into broad archetypes, we had 4 red-based aggressive decks with Hazaret and 3 blue-red Godpharaoh's gift decks. Slater, the one person to break that mold with Sultai Constrictor, but he takes an early exit.
So that means we're going to check in on Matthew Dimaggio and Jeremy Frey now. This is the 3rd copy of blue-red Godpharaoh's gift in our top 8. That was the most successful deck at this tournament with the full 3 copies. The 3rd one, of course, in the hands of Jeremy Frey. He's playing against Matthew Dimaggio, playing against the 2nd most successful deck here in our top 8. That is black-red aggro. We just saw it win, and it's up a game here against Jeremy. Though not a super impressive board state here for Matthew Dimaggio with just the 2-1, and Jeremy's at 18?
I'll be curious to see if the patterns and results that we see in this match are going to be foreshadowing of Jerry Thompson's next round. I don't have a great instinct for which deck is going to be advantaged here. We do know that the blue-red Godpharaoh's gift deck had an extremely abnormally high win rate in this Grand Prix, and potentially is just an amazing deck. Mm-hmm. So I'd certainly be a little bit scared if I was the one going up against it, but we know that these black-red aggro players have done their fair share of winning, and you can never really be too safe against a deck as fast, aggressive, and punishing as black-red.
Yeah, I know that Simon Nielsen, European pro, was streaming with this blue-red deck and maybe put it on the map. I'm not sure about its origins specifically, but that's where I first heard about it. And I know some of the players here picked it up from having watched Simon play it. And boy, did it rock this tournament. It was the talk of the town and has converted as well with 3 copies in the top 8.
Ooh, Scavenger Grounds post-combat here. Very relevant card.
Could reset a lot of the work that Jeremy Frey's done. By the way, update. Ganyan, we've been watching him play mono red and win every single match he's played the entire weekend. He evens things up against Andrew Shane playing vehicles. So the dream is alive of the 18-0 for Gan.
Somewhat of a key moment here, Marshall, with Jeremy Frey begins his turn by sacrificing Fanatical Firebrand and puts a triggered ability on the stack from Gate to the Afterlife. There are currently 5 creatures in the graveyard, and Matthew Dimaggio responds to the triggered ability with Scavenger Grounds. Now Jeremy Frey pauses the game. He says, let me think. I have an Ipnu Rivulet here. Let me consider if I want to give myself a chance of getting lucky, milling and sacrificing Gate to the Afterlife, all in response to the Scavenger Ground. He decides he's just going to let it go.
Well, he'll have to rebuild that graveyard of his if he wants to get the Gate to the Afterlife online. Remember, you need 6 creatures in your graveyard just to activate it.
I believe it was 5 creatures in the graveyard when that decision was being made. It may have been 4. It was a little hard to tell as part of it was off the screen.
Pretty big difference between it, right? I mean,
right.
5 you have to consider yourself highly likely to hit, but 4 and you miss can be quite a disaster. Especially look at this. He's got Minister of Inquiries and still has that Rivulet. He can just start reloading, and he's already got Champion of the Wits, so 1 in there now.
I think I probably would have gone for it if I was in that position.
If it was on 5?
Even 4, maybe, because
I like that.
It's pretty challenging to rebuild from this position, especially with no hand. He can no longer make great use of the looting aspect of Gate to the Afterlife. Whoa!
How about 4
there.
for 4?
So he's back up to 5 creatures.
Yeah.
And untapping with Minister of Inquiries.
Yep. That is one way to do it, Reed Duke. Wow. He's in very good position. Now he's going to activate Minister of Inquiries. He just needs to hit 1 creature.
And then he does.
And he did. There's Trophy Mage.
Remember, there still could be an Abrade from Matthew Dimaggio, but you better believe Jeremy Frey's going for it here.
Yeah, and if he does have a Braid, he'll just wait for the Godpharaoh's gift to be on the battlefield, right? And then Jeremy will say, "Can I go to combat?" And Matthew will say, "No."
That would be the normal pattern that I'd expect. Sometimes if you're going to attack into potential opposing blockers, you might kill the gate to the afterlife.
Oh!
Here it comes.
It's triggering. He does not have a braid, and Jeremy Frey has successfully gone way ahead now in this game at a cool 18 life with an active Godpharaoh's Gift facing down a grand total of a 3-2. He is looking fantastic.
Yeah, he's poised to take this one to a deciding game 3.
And he's even going to keep that pressure up, start attacking right away. Dimaggio is going to drop down to 16, but Champion of Wits is going to continue to fuel his list. And wow, now he adds an Ether Sphere Harvester. In case there was any way for Matthew to just steal a win, that window has closed.
Pretty common convention here to pull the creature either entirely out of or half out of the sleeve to represent that it's been returned as a 4/4 with Godpharaoh's Gift.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's going on with the Champion of Wits down at the bottom of the battlefield.
Matthew Dimaggio has to survey the scene, but it certainly doesn't look good for him. And yet another land. He's up to 6 lands. I do see an Earthshaker Kenra. That's in his actual graveyard, right? So
yeah. He may unearth that, but eternalize that, but it's not really a winning play. It's something to spend your mana on, but it's pretty tough against an active Godpharaoh's Gift and Ether Sphere Harvester.
Right. That's the thing. That wasn't his thrilling conclusion. This is going to happen every turn. And we have seen some really neat shenanigans. Doesn't look like it's going to happen this game, but Combat Celebrant added to the mix as cards you can get back, along with Vizier of Many Faces, has produced some absurd combat steps that we're not usually used to seeing. 40 points of damage piling in. All right, another gate to the afterlife.
Transitioning to another Godpharaoh's Gift. So this is, if not lethal, it's going to be pretty darn close. Looks like he can attack for 15 on the board here by making 2 4/4 haste and using Minister of Inquiries to crew that Ether Sphere Harvester.
Would you consider 15 a lot of damage?
Yeah, but I'd be going for 16. What he can do is he can start with effectively eternalizing Champion of Wits to draw 4 and discard 2. So if he finds Combat Celebrant or anything else that can represent additional damage here.
That's just game.
That's game.
Let's see if he does. There it is, Combat Celebrant. Hello. I guess we do get to see it this game after all. Bring back Combat Celebrant, and he's going to scoop him up. But Reed, can you walk through what was going to happen there if Matthew hadn't have conceded?
The second Godpharaoh's Gift was going to return Combat Celebrant to play with haste. Jeremy Frey was going to attack for 15 points of damage and exert his Combat Celebrant to untap the rest of his creatures and give him another combat step. And if just attacking for another 11 damage wasn't enough, he was also going to get 2 more triggers off of Godpharaoh's Gift to return 2 more 4/4 haste creatures, get the Enters the Battlefield abilities off all of them. So to answer your earlier question, Marshall, no, 15 damage was not enough.
Look, all I asked was, is it a lot? Oh, man. Bomac Courier getting in for Andrew Shaners. We're going to jump over and see this Mardu Vehicles versus Mono Red. Again, the big storyline here is Ganyan undefeated.
And it looks like we're seeing the death throes of yet another opponent of Ganyang. He's attacking for not quite lethal, but the Mardu Vehicles player at a low life total and pretty much defenseless here.
So this is going to be 16-0 for Ganyang on his march into the top 8 now?
So the player's clarifying where exactly in the turn they are, if the Ragavan and the Bomat Couriers have already triggered. All right, so do you have Fumigate in your deck, Andrew Shane?
In the Mardu Vehicles deck?
No.
The extremely transformative sideboard option. Nope, and that's going to do it. Ganyang again wins his match and keeps the streak alive. He has yet to lose this weekend, and he's played every match as well. We didn't see any draws or any concessions. Wow. This guy is unstoppable here in Seattle. Absolutely on a tear. Puts himself into the semifinals. He is going to be playing the winner of Matthew Dimaggio and Jeremy Frey. There's gone. He can't believe it either. And I do have an update, by the way, from one of our other tables. Charles Wong versus Grayson Roberts. Grayson puts together the win and takes out Charles Wong 2-0 in the blue-red gift mirror match. So now we know who Jerry's playing. He's going to be playing Grayson.
The young man from Minneapolis.
That's right. And that leaves us, but with one quarterfinal left, Reed, it is Matthew Dimaggio versus Jeremy Frey, the match that we just spent a good amount of time on a few minutes ago.
And the most important matchup of this top 8, as these are the 2 decks that are represented in multiple copies. Matthew Dimaggio gets to be on the play, but it's Jeremy Frey who has the 1-drop creature.
I just love the kind of comical element to this Godpharaoh's gift deck. How do you start off with Fanatical Firebrand and end in Godpharaoh's gift? It just doesn't add up, but it makes sense, you know?
One of our players who we interviewed earlier, the bad aggro plan, as he called it, of the Godpharaoh's gift deck. You don't have to combo. When your deck has 30-something creatures in it, you can just piece together 20 damage based on these 1 and 2 toughness attackers.
Here's a Warkite Marauder now for Jeremy Frey. This is a sweet little bit of technology that somebody found. The ability to turn your opponent's creatures into 0-1s with no abilities and then ping them. And they have multiple ways to do that. You see one of them on the battlefield with Firebrand, but there's also the old standby Walking Ballista as well. And we've seen people kill Hazaret the Fervent with that. We've seen it kill the Scarab God multiple times, where they just never really get a chance to untap or have the mana available with it. It's really been impressive for a card that, well, up until now kind of was like a sweet first pick, and that was about it.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Really good piece of technology. It's really genius to pair it with Fanatical Firebrand and Walking Ballista as a way to destroy troublesome and larger creatures. Very unusual draw for Matthew Dimaggio, playing no spells in the first 3 turns so far. I guess he's thinking at the end of the turn if he wants to spend a removal spell on one of these creatures. Also very telling how ineffective removal is. Oh no! Fiery Cannonade, 2 damage to each non-pirate creature. Guess what creature type Fanatical Firebrand
It's a pirate! They both are. Matthew Dimaggio has to use it just to kill Champion of Wits. That's not what he wants to do. And here's Rekindling Phoenix now. Another good target for the Marauder.
Yeah, of course. Warkite Marauder not only makes a creature a 0-1, but it also causes it to lose all abilities. And that includes Rekindling Phoenix's Die's ability. It goes to the graveyard ability. So that if the Warkite Marauder makes that a 0-1, no abilities, it won't create an elemental token when it dies.
It's going to have to stay in the graveyard. Now, Jeremy does have to decide if he wants to use the Firebrand. And sure, that's what it's here for. He's going to fire it off. The Rekindling Phoenix gets no trigger. You see Jeremy just reminding him. And there's Padim to help protect his artifacts, I suppose?
I think it's really just that you want to have a nice mana curve from 1 to 4 of 1 power attacking creatures to punish your opponent.
Oh, man. Artifacts you control have hexproof, is what Padim says. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control the artifact with the highest converted mana cost or tied for it, draw a card. As you can see, not a central theme, as Jeremy has no artifacts going at all. And here's Glorybringer for Matthew Dimaggio, so he is going to fight back.
Yeah, this is a nice way for him to get back into the game, because Jeremy Frey hasn't had the combo type draw for God Pharaoh's Gift, and you better believe that Glorybringer is going to make mincemeat of an average creature draw from the God Pharaoh's Gift deck. I mean, this is almost like playing Amonkhet Limited. You mentioned Warkite Marauder being a very good limited card, but Glorybringer in a game where players are playing average level creatures and very few removal spells, it's just too good.
Yeah. All right. There's a key part of the puzzle here. A Walking Ballista follows up a Gate to the Afterlife. Padim's getting frisky.
Padim you can think of as effectively a countermeasure to the specific card Abrade, and it's perfect because it prevents your artifacts, your key combo pieces from dying to Abrade, and it also has 4 toughness itself.
Very difficult to get rid of if all you have access to is Abrade. Good news for Matthew Dimaggio is that he does have a Glorybringer and can kill Padim next turn potentially, but the clock is ticking. There's at least 3 creatures in the graveyard, right? There's the 2 that we just saw die plus the
play for Matthew here might just be to attack with Glorybringer and not exert.
I think it just came off of exert, right?
No, but I mean to cast a second Glorybringer attack and not exert to kill a creature of Jeremy Frey. I think it might be more to his benefit to keep those creatures alive rather than sending them to the graveyard to up the creature count and allow Jeremy Frey to trigger and loot off of the Gate to the Afterlife.
Crazy.
It is crazy. I don't know if it's right. It's a very bizarre situation to find yourself in, but it's something to think about at least.
Well, it looks like Matthew is going to kick things off with Rekindling Phoenix and save Glorybringer number 2 for next turn instead. And he's just going to pass the turn back to Jeremy Frey. And he does, in fact, control the artifact with the highest converted mana cost, so he actually gets a trigger from Padim.
That's a nice one.
It's a big game. Like you said, Padim in there to kind of protect the combo, but hey, that's some serious value. Trying an extra card a turn? No joke. Jeremy is going to just use Walking Ballista to do 1 damage to Glorybringer, indicating that he has some way to do more. He gets a loot here.
So you know what the plan here is, Marshall, is Jeremy Frey would like to get God Pharaoh's Gift into play. Remember, it's going to have hexproof due to Padim, so it's not getting abraded. Then he's going to bring back Warkite Marauder and make that Glorybringer into a 0/1 creature.
Sure.
Which will then die due to the 1 damage on it.
Now, does he have 5 or 6 creatures in his yard? We can see 5. There may be 1 back there. Yeah, it looks like there must have been 1 additional. We know about the Champion of Wits and then the other 4. But there's something behind it. And that means the God Pharaoh's Gift is on the table. And it looks like that line that you described is going to come to fruition here.
Well, what's better than getting Warkite Marauder? Getting Combat Celebrant and then getting Warkite Marauder. I suppose he has to think about a possible Fatal Push. Because the creature that's returned with God Pharaoh's Gift will not have hexproof if it's not an artifact.
That is right. It will have 4 toughness, so he doesn't have to worry about Abrade, but...
Oh, you know what?
What's up?
Well, with the case of Combat Celebrant in particular, God Pharaoh's Gift is templated slightly different than Eternalize. While Eternalize makes a token that has a mana cost of 0, God Pharaoh's Gift actually makes a copy of the creature, which in the case of Combat Celebrant would have 3... converted mana cost of 3.
Of course, yeah, that subtlety comes up rarely, but when it does, of course, it's very important. It looks like Jeremy's actually going to take a very conservative line here. Just get the Warkite Marauder.
I wonder why.
I don't know. But whichever the line is, he's getting in for 4 right now, and that Glorybringer is gone. And with Jeremy Frey at a healthy 17 life, facing just a Rekindling Phoenix, it's going to be tough for Matthew Dimaggio to break through if he can't get rid of God Pharaoh's Gift. And as you mentioned a few minutes ago, his prime out to get rid of it isn't going to work because of Padim. Aethersphere Harvester. Pass the turn back to Matthew. Matthew's going to untap. This is game 3 of our last quarterfinal match. He's forced to sacrifice that elemental, get back the rekindling Phoenix.
Matthew Dimaggio engaged in some transformative sideboarding here, raising his mana curve, bringing in extra removal spells and disruptive elements. The consequence of that means he's actually going to have to fight through Jeremy Frey's board if he wants to win the game. He can't really race with Jeremy Frey at 17 and Aethersphere Harvester on the battlefield. It's a tough spot for him.
There's that other Glorybringer from last turn. That is an answer for Padim. And that's pretty good. He's going to go ahead and use Padim to crew up the Aethersphere Harvester in response, throw down a block, and probably gain himself 3 life as well.
Works for me.
Yeah, 7-point life swing. So Dimaggio has to spend quite a bit of resource there, a full attack step, gaining his opponent 3 life, and locking down his Glorybringer for another turn cycle, but he does get rid of Padim, which could open up outs to destroy Godpharaoh's Gift. See if he just gets back Padim, or how he wants to approach it. First things first, though, Minister of Inquiries for Jeremy.
Oh, no, Marshall.
What are we seeing here?
A second Godpharaoh's Gift is going to enter the fray.
Oh, no. Also known as the other Godpharaoh's Gift.
That means that if Combat Celebrant can successfully attack here, there's going to be 4 triggers of Godpharaoh's Gift this turn.
What? Including Padim just coming back and bricking any outs for Matthew? Wow. When this deck goes off, it is disgusting.
I don't even know that we have to worry about outs. I think the game is going to end this turn.
It's a lethal attack, huh?
It should be, even through a blocker.
So first, let's go for some value. And maybe try to stock up on another Combat Celebrant. Can you stack combat steps?
You can. Each Combat Celebrant represents 1 additional combat step, so you can't go infinite. You can't just have 2 repeatedly untapping each other, but each one can net you 1 additional combat step. So make that 4 triggers of Godpharaoh's Gift into 6.
He's going to crew up the Aethersphere Harvester as well. But this is not going to end well if you are Matthew Dimaggio. Those cards being untapped are the ones that we're attacking. Of course, the Celebrant itself, upon exerting, does not untap. And Matthew's just going to go ahead and trade off for the Rekindling Phoenix. Jeremy's going to be concise here and say, okay, yes, good, but I will spend an energy to get some life. Away goes the Celebrant, but there's more where that came from. I'd like to go to my second combat step. 2 more Godpharaoh's Gift triggers, including another Combat Celebrant. And now it just doesn't seem to matter what he gets back. He just has the win. And that's going to do it. Jeremy Frey is through. So 2 of our 3 blue-red Godpharaoh's Gift decks are through. That is the maximum number that could get through, as one of them were facing off against each other. And congratulations to the great run for Matthew Dimaggio, though it will end here for him. We'll have to see you at the Pro Tour, Matthew. Gagnon, still undefeated. He's going to play against Jeremy Frey next round. Jeremy, again, on that blue-red gift deck that we just saw right there. On the other side of the bracket is blue-red gift in the hands of Grayson Roberts, and he's going to be facing down, well, kind of the monster in the room here. Jerry Thompson is still in this tournament, and he is a force to be reckoned with. He decided to bring black-red aggro to the table, and he's going to be facing it off. So we've got multiple copies of blue-red gift, a black-red aggro still in here, and mono-red. We're going to be bringing you coverage of the semifinals right after these messages.